Welcome back to Zestology. I'm Tony Wrighton, recording inside this week because it has been a bit wet and a bit damp recently, and it's just kind of easier to record inside every once in a while. But normally I do like to kind of walk out and about. And today's podcast is, as always, all about energy, vitality, and motivation. And I have a world leader in his field, somebody that people in the world of biohacking and natural health and paleo get very excited about, Chris Shade. And it's all about anti-aging medicine today. This is a good one. I mean, he could be your new health obsession, I think, Chris Shade. And in this podcast, he does talk about his company's products quite a bit, but he's one of the most respected authorities on his subject. Therefore, he can, because it tends to be that his products at Quicksilver are better than other products. I asked him about other company favourites as well. We talk about NAD, prepared to get technical on NAD, something that very much helps with energy, which is the subject of this podcast. He is the man who worked with Tony Robbins to help get rid of his mercury, and you'll hear a little bit about that. And he is a world leader in detox protocols. He really knows his stuff. He's a great guy, has some interesting practices that help him to relax after a hardcore day helping patients as well. Here he is, Chris Shade on Zestology. And by the way, this was a podcast that was supposed to go out about 4 months ago. And then the world got dramatically crazy and different. As we all know, things have changed, not only over the last 4 months, but forever. So there may be references to quite a different world in this. But yeah, since then, I obviously have recorded quite a few coronavirus-specific podcasts, and it's very nice to feel normal enough to be able to play podcasts out like this now. So it's great to have Chris Shade on. As I say, he's a world expert. I've met him in the flesh. It's not the first time he's been on Zestology. I've seen him talk live as well. I've taken some of his supplements, which I really enjoy, and I've got some here. I've got some in the fridge and some in the cupboard, and he's a good guy. He's a world expert, and he's got a bit of a life as well, which is nice in this world. You can't say that about everybody. Probably can't say that about me, to be honest, but he has. Here he is, Chris Shade on Zestology. Okay, Chris, we are recording. How are you doing?
Doing very good, Tony. It's good to hear from you again.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. Last time, obviously, we did it in person.
Yeah.
Are you going to be at Paleo FX this year?
I think this year we will not.
Oh, that's a shame. All right. Well, I'm hoping to go, so I might have seen you there. But we've got this Skype interview, so that's good.
Yeah,
now, I know you're obsessed by something at the moment, Chris. So I thought we could start this podcast by talking about your obsession. What is it?
NAD.
NAD. Why? What is NAD? Why the obsession? And why should Zestology listeners be obsessed by it?
It is the universal elixir of life. I mean, there's nothing that, having really robust comes down to robust health. Nothing determines that more than NAD. And unfortunately, it's taken a long time to get to where we see that and where I see that. But here we are, and it feeds into everything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've spent a lot of time in this world, and I don't really know what NAD is and why I should be obsessed by it. So can you kind of strip it back?
I certainly will. So at the most basic level, NAD is responsible for oxidizing all of your carbon substrates, that's glucose and fats, to transfer electrons over into the electron transport chain, the process called oxidative phosphorylation in the mitochondria. And that is the generation then of ATP, and that is the cellular energy. And so that's what it's most known for. But as we start stripping it away, we're going to look at NAD in its redox activity. So redox means that you're shifting electrons around. You're taking reduce things and oxidizing things, reducing them, and that's the movement of electrons. And NAD has its oxidized form, NAD+, which pulls electrons off the carbon substrates, either in glycolysis or in the Krebs cycle, and turns it to its reduced form, NADH. And then it goes over and it dumps those electrons and a proton with it, collectively as a hydride, into oxidative phosphorylation. So it's got its oxidized and reduced. And you want it dominantly oxidized so it's voraciously feeding off of the carbon substrates. But then it has sort of another face, and that's when you put a phosphorus onto it, and that's called NADP, and its reduced form is NADPH. And there you want dominantly reduced NADPH, which can then donate electrons and the proton together collectively as a hydride onto oxidized antioxidants like glutathione. So this is how we keep glutathione always reduced, and by driving reducing potential from NADPH, but we keep NAD always oxidized. So we see now it's got two sides. It's oxidizing and it's reducing in these two faces. And when they're kept compartmentalized, everything's good. But then we see, when we look into aging, we look into things like mitochondrial diseases, where mitochondria stop cranking out energy, and instead they're making free radical stress. And so then there's this phenomenon there called the nuclear mitochondrial imbalance, where the nucleus and the mitochondria have to work together to make the oxidative phosphorylation, or all the units of the electron transport chain. And they start getting mismatched in their messaging. And all of a sudden, the mitochondria is not making enough units for the electron transport chain compared to what the nucleus is doing. And then when those electrons start moving through the electron transport chain, instead of being handed off one to another through the subunits, the electrons fly out of there and become free radicals. It's like a baton race, and you have no one to pass your baton to, and instead you throw it into the crowd and kill someone. And turns out that NAD is responsible for fueling the signaling that comes from the nucleus to go to the mitochondria to keep them on the same page.
So
and in fact,
right.
Yeah,
so it's boosting your mitochondrial energy, the NAD.
it is. And through one path is this communication between the nucleus and the mitochondria. This is a big part of the mitochondrial theory of aging. In the mitochondrial theory of aging, first there's this decoupling, where the mitochondria, instead of making energy, they're making free radicals. And that's zipped up by having the right NAD levels in the nucleus, and the nucleus then activating the sirtuins in the nucleus to drive the messenger over to the mitochondria. So then this is the first time we're invoking sirtuins. And, we talk a lot about sirtuins over the last 2 decades as being these anti-aging proteins and the genes associated with them, and the way that they control which genes are silenced and which genes are active. And this is all towards more effective metabolism. We thought, resveratrol is a sirtuin activating compound. But unless there's enough NAD, nothing's a sirtuin activating compound. So NAD activates sirtuins on its own, and even better when it's got something like resveratrol. So this first part of the mitochondrial theory of aging is producing stress instead of energy, and that is fixed by NAD. The second part of it is not having enough antioxidant protection in the mitochondria and getting damage to the membranes in the mitochondria, damage to the DNA in the mitochondria. And that's controlled by NAD's sister, NADPH. So when NAD is down, NADPH is down, the reducing potential. And in fact, when you look at some of the animal studies, like Alzheimer's susceptible mice, when they look at them, they have low NADPH. Thus, they have low glutathione, and thus they have high reactive oxygen species, and they have so much free radical stress that they develop Alzheimer's quickly over time. And so NAD is controlling the oxidative metabolism, and it's controlling the protective reductive metabolism all at the same time. And we haven't even talked about mitochondrial biogenesis yet.
Well, my brain is, I know this is all supposed to be good for my brain, but it's in a swirl of NADs. So, so basically, by taking NAD, because I'm pretty sure I interviewed Dr. David Sinclair recently, and he was talking about NAD as well.
Yeah.
It's going to help the brain, it's going to help the body, and it's going to slow aging, and it's going to make us feel better. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's through all these different mechanisms. And so that, those first mechanisms were just oxidizing carbon substrates, getting the nucleus and the mitochondria on the same page so they make the mitochondria work right, and having enough protective metabolism. But now that's during what's called fed state versus fasted state. So you and I are always around this sort of biohacker world, and what's big is keto and fasting.
Yeah.
And when you're fed on fat and not carbs, or when you're fasting, or with heavy exercise, there's something called AMPK activation. Have you interviewed people who talk about AMPK activation? I imagine yes.
Possibly, Chris, but I don't think so. Actually,
all right.
To be honest.
Yeah. This is the trigger that turns on fat burning and ketogenesis. And this is why keto and fasting are so good for things like fatty liver and insulin resistance, because they turn your body into a fuel burning machine. You start burning fats and turning them into ketones. You start burning glycogen more efficiently. You start burning sugar that's around more efficiently. And this is all triggered when your body runs out of carbs. When your body has carbs, it sees that it is in a period of abundance, and it is more likely to lay down those resources into long-term storage, like deposition of fat and glycogen. But when it runs out of those, you hit this AMPK switch and you turn up all the clean burning. Now, when you're doing that, some of that feeds down into sirtuin activation. And if you have enough NAD, then you will also activate mitochondrial biogenesis. You will actually make more mitochondria per cell. But that only works if you have enough NAD. So if you're taking NAD and, say, intermittent fasting or doing intermittent keto or exercising a lot, you will get full benefits of mitochondrial biogenesis.
Right. You see, this is what I like about you, Chris, because I know you go in depth and technical, and my listeners like that as well. They like to go properly delve in.
Yeah, because if you don't know a little bit of the pathways in the biochemistry, you can just start making stuff up. You like to fool yourself. But when you know some, then you have mechanism, and you can be much more accurate about how you go about putting together your protocols.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I'm always wary of, and I might have mentioned this to you last time, is I always think that I do need this stuff. And I think it might have been even your company. I did some testing, and there's definitely some stuff to detox.
Yeah.
Therefore, is there a danger that when you take something like NAD, you can start to really detox too quick, get the Herxheimer reaction or whatever it might be?
Yes, there is. Yeah. But it doesn't. It depends what you're coupling it with. So now we go back to the other face of NAD, which is NADPH, which drives glutathione metabolism, which I called reductive metabolism, because glutathione is your main antioxidant. Antioxidants are reductants. And glutathione is driving detoxification. And so NAD is driving detoxification through the glutathione system. It is also driving it by giving you enough ATP to detoxify, because often you're limited by your ATP production as to being able to even drive the enzymes that use ATP for detoxification. So it is possible that you will start turning up detoxification that had been lowered before. And so a lot of times when I get people onto these new supplements that are turning the energy up in the body, I'll like them to couple it with something that's helping to clean up. In the beginning of taking NAD, there is it can be a little bit rocky. The beginning, there's something called NADPH oxidase, which can speed up and make some free radicals. It can make peroxynitrite. So in the beginning, I'd like to give people glutathione, vitamin C, and some GI binders as we bring up the NAD. And this allows them to offload that first wave of toxins and control the free radicals that might be coming up when you're restarting, getting your mitochondria and your adrenals back on the same page and getting them back up and working. But there's another thing that has been largely missed, but I know Sinclair talks about it now, and that's the need for proper methylation factors to couple to the NAD cycle. Now, do you know what I mean when I say methylation factors?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, the reason that I asked you that question is because when I first learned about methylation, which is a few years ago, and I started methylating, I started taking methylated vitamins and felt fantastic. So I was just boshing.
Yeah.
I was taking the maximum dose for a couple of weeks. I literally had the best 2 weeks ever. And then I had 2 months when I felt so dreadful. My body just kind of got too excited and just started spewing all these toxins out, and I couldn't get rid of them. And I really felt awful for a couple of months. I just kind of switched it on too much, which is why I'm quite wary now of doing things too quickly,
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And so the more balanced you have everything, the faster you can go in changing things. So that whole methylation story of feeling great and then crashing out really hard is a very common one. But there was inklings of the overlap between the B3 cycles and the methylation cycles then, but they weren't really described very well. Now, remember, they used to say if you over-methylate, like you take too much methylfolate and you get manic, what would you take as the antidote?
If I over-methylate and what?
Yeah. Say you take too much folate and you get irritable and kind of manic and angry. What was the antidote for that? Do you remember?
Well, what I was trying to do was take charcoal tablets, and that was just keeping it all in my system even more, I think. But it did help a little bit.
Yeah, but that wasn't really where I was going, because and not everybody talked about this, but Ben Lynch would lecture on it.
Oh, so, hang on, sorry. I think I do know. It's would you say niacin?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So niacin is nicotinic acid. Niacinamide, another B3. And then what are we talking about? What is NAD? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Nicotinamide is like the methylfolate of B3. It is all the way acted. It is a nucleotide. It's linked to a ribose sugar and a high-energy phosphate bond, and it's linked to this adenine. And adenine is the same building block that makes ATP. So you're linking on these high-energy phosphates onto this vitamin B3 and using that to drive all these reactions. So now this is to couple the methylation and the B3 cycle. So once NAD activates a sirtuin, the spent NAD is nicotinamide. Now, nicotinamide is then an inhibitor of the sirtuin. So you have to move it away. Now, if you're young and actively metabolizing, you have an enzyme that will regenerate NAD from that. But if you have some sort of blocks around that, so that enzyme gets very diminished with age. It's called NAMPT. And any inflammatory stressors, degenerative stressors, just age itself, many toxins, chronic infections will all block NAMPT, and so you can't regenerate the NAD, and your sirtuins are blocked. So then another way to get rid of it is to methylate it and pee it out as methyl nicotinamide. Now, what's the donor from that? One of your primary methyl donors, in fact, the primary methyl donor in your body, SAMe. And when SAMe methylates nicotinamide, it turns to S-adenosyl homocysteine and then homocysteine. And you need to regenerate homocysteine into methionine using TMG and B12.
Okay, TMG. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, trimethylglycine. It's also betaine, or if you're taking those hydrochloric acid pills, those are betaine hydrochloride. So to really make these two cycles work together, you need to feed both at the same time. And in fact, I found these really cool anthropological biochemistry papers about the evolution of man and different civilizations that have had either more NAD factors, meaning more access to B3 in their diets, or more methyl groups in their diets, and when they're imbalanced versus balanced. And they say, literally, when they're balanced, you raise the ceiling on the methylome and NAD potentials in the body. You're basically raising the potential for the body to work in an optimized fashion. So there we were, back in the methylation days, we were only looking at that and not NAD. And you may have crashed your NAD levels. It may have not just been detoxification, which was with everybody. They just took this leap from methylation to glutathione to detoxification and missed like a million different possible pathways in the middle. But I believe because when you raise up methylation, you spin out a lot of extra NAD. And at the time, because everybody was obsessed with bringing their methylation levels up, there was this sense that niacin was the enemy. And only if you overdosed did you need niacin. But in fact, you need the two together at the same time.
Just interrupting this podcast for one moment to tell you that it is brought to you by my podcast partners for June, Magnesium Breakthrough. If there is one mineral you should be worried about not getting enough of, it is magnesium. It is the body's master mineral, powering over 300 critical reactions, including detox, very important, on topic for zestology, fat metabolism, also on topic for zestology, and energy, definitely on topic for zestology. Problem with magnesium is it's largely missing from soil in the US, in the UK, pretty much around the world, and estimates are that up to 80% of people might be deficient in magnesium, and most supplements only have one or two forms of it, but not Magnesium Breakthrough. And that's why I'm doing Magnesium June, taking magnesium every day during June and taking my partner Magnesium Breakthrough every day during June in Magnesium June. Snappy title. Hope you're enjoying it, and I'd love to hear from you if you're doing it as well. Mag Breakthrough is where you can find the supplement, magbreakthrough.com/zestology. You'll save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough, and that deal is only available on that website. It's not available on Amazon. It's not available on the company's own website. It's magbreakthrough.com/zestology. Get involved in Magnesium June, like I am. Use the code zestology10. And I'd love to hear from you if you're enjoying the magnesium. And you may well find that 7 different forms of magnesium is better absorbed than 1 or 2. It's magbreakthrough.com/zestology. Now, back to the show. I mean, it's interesting. You talk about niacin there. I mean, one of the things that I had on my list to talk to you about was the fact that about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I started kind of trying a different protocol, and I felt absolutely loads. It's been life-changing for me, and that is following a low histamine diet. Something which I didn't even really know what histamine intolerance was before, but it's been a massive difference to me. And I know there's links, but potentially negative links, I think, between niacin and histamine. But also, I know that you've gotten interested in histamine as well, which I thought would be interesting to talk to you about.
Everybody gets obsessed with this Why is there a negative link between niacin and histamine? It's because proper methylation lowers your histamine levels and stabilizes your NAD. Stabilizes your mast cells.
Yeah.
And histamine, I mean, using niacin is then a drain on your methylation levels. So if you're using niacin and methyl groups at the same time and avoiding excess histamines, you'll be fine. In fact, when I started taking NAD, if you took NAD without methyl factors, it could wind up, you might feel good at first and then you get all foggy, and it would wind up mast cell activation. And so once you put in enough once you put in enough methylation factors, it would lower your histamine. So they just have to be balanced. And people are so freaking binary that they're not seeing that they have to come together. They're saying one's good, one's bad.
Well, our brains just don't work in the same way as you, Chris, but luckily we've got you to explain it for us. And then you mentioned SAMe. That's something I've not taken before, but I've heard that is actually, taking SAMe is actually very good for histamine. Is that right?
Yeah, because it's stabilizing your histamine metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's just, if you're a low methylator, you got to see when you raise NAD, and we'll talk about how to raise NAD. So we're saying it's in the B3 family, and then we'll say what are the best precursors to NAD. But when you're bringing up NAD, you got to bring up methylation factors even more than usual. But just remember this: you do too much B3, you sink your methyl groups, and then you have excess histamine activity. You do too much methylation with no B3, you sink your NAD levels, and then your mitochondria are decrepit and you have no energy to do anything.
Right.
They have to be in a balance.
Yeah.
And if you bring both up together, you're freaking Superman.
And when you say B3, that is niacin.
It's niacin.
Yeah.
So you have the low versions of it, niacin. The next version up, niacinamide. Then you have the Cadillacs. Nicotinamide riboside, and the one I use, nicotinamide mononucleotide. Nicotinamide mononucleotide is one step away from NAD. It is the immediate precursor to NAD, whereas like niacin is 8 steps away. And your body needs NAD so much that you can even synthesize it from amino acids, specifically tryptophan. So there are ways to get it, but the best way to get it is to put in these Cadillac precursors, especially if you're trying to biohack or get yourself better or do anti-aging medicine. So they are all in the B3 family, but it's kind of like, like folate. There's folic acid, the most degenerate of the B9s, and then you move through different levels, and then you have like your best versions would be folinic acid, and then your most active version is methylfolate.
Okay, so so in terms of taking action, I've got a bit of a shopping list going while I talk to you here, and I've written down nicotinamide mononucleotide, and I've written SAMe as well, and then NAD. Would one take NAD to raise one's NAD levels?
NAD you can only be taken by injection because it is not it's not stable in a solution, so I can't make a liposome of it. And 2, it's not stable as a powder in the GI tract. I mean, you'll see these like lozenges of it, and you get a little bit in. I mean, it's better than nothing. But NAD has to be injected, or if you want a precursor, NMN is the way to go, and specifically in a liposome. And we just released a product in December called NAD Gold, which is a liposome of nicotinamide mononucleotide, or NMN, and TMG together.
Right. Okay. So, and when you say we, your company is Quicksilver Scientific, right?
Quicksilver Scientific.
Yeah.
You look on our website, you'll see NAD Gold. We can't even keep it in stock. Yeah. It's the most profound product that we've ever come out with.
Yeah. I mean, I know that your Quicksilver Scientific extremely well respected across America. In fact, I even contacted your people about a year ago and said, "Look, I really love this histamine stuff, and I know you've got a histamine supplement. Can I sell it in the UK?" I don't think I think someone
Oh yeah.
already does it, unfortunately. So
Yeah, and that was a mast cell stabilizer. That was histaid.
yeah, Histaid.
And
Yeah.
so histaid and vitamin C are ways that you help stabilize the mast cells so that they're not releasing histamines, and even before they release histamines. So some people, you have all the symptoms like, the brain fog and the fatigue, but you're not all flushy and red. That's because histamines first release these tiny little vesicles with all kinds of pro-inflammatory cytokines. And later they degranulate and release the histamines. And so mast cell stabilization is achieved through quercetin and luteolin, and that's what's in a nanoparticle of histaid with a little bit of vitamin C. And then histamines are degraded by vitamin C. So it's a combination of our liposomal C and the histaid, and those things work fabulously well. But since I raised up this ceiling of my methyl groups and my NAD, I don't have to take that stuff anymore, unless I'm just super burned out from traveling a ton, like I did in the last week.
Okay. Yeah. Are you coming to London for the Health Optimization Summit?
Well, I sure am.
Oh, great. Well, you'll be taking it then. and I'll see you then as well. And in
Yes,
fact, it's
yes.
it's Tim who runs that summit, who I was out for lunch with him, and he was like, "Here, mate, open your mouth," and put a spray of your histaid in my mouth. And I was like, "What's that?" I hadn't even heard about it. But yeah, it's great. It's really good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see, like, it just clears you right up. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's good. We'll have to get together in person when you come over and record a podcast then.
For sure. Yeah.
The NAD Gold, though, let's say we were to take this NAD. This is your new health obsession, and maybe many people's, people are looking at anti-aging medicine. Are they going to? Is the benefit mainly instant, or is it long term?
It's a combo. Some people it's real fast. Others, we gotta, especially if they're adrenal fatigued, we have to have it with some C and some glutathione for the first week, and they will feel it, but then it just keeps building. And then it's something you're just going to use to maintain a really high level of activity. I mean, it could sound pitchy, but I haven't had any single thing that has changed my life so much as getting this integrated into what I do. There's much less Band-Aid and repair stuff that I take now, a lot less antioxidants and glutathione and C, and it's more the body is running itself. And I burn energy efficiently. I recover super, super quickly, and everything is just running, on all cylinders all the time. And there's been no burnout from it. I've been doing this. I only released the product in December, but I'd been, living on it for about a year.
I mean, it does sound pitchy, but I still want to give it a go.
Oh, I mean, but truth is truth, and truth is pitchy, because you're like, it's great.
Yeah, yeah. And what I like about you is you love going in depth with all this stuff, but you've got a life outside of biohacking as well. You like to let your hair down and party a bit as well, don't you?
I do pretty heavily, and this helps me keep up with that.
Good, yeah. So maybe, yeah. I mean, because I know that other things like Histaid and probably NAD as well, they probably do help after a night of partying, don't they? Actually.
Oh, they absolutely do. Keeping the NAD levels up, you're metabolizing alcohol as you're partying, your adrenals come back in the morning. I was in a section where I had to do saunas every morning to like flip. I think it was my tetrahydrobiopterin and my adrenals, or else I'd just be foggy. Like after let's say Thursday to Sunday at some show and going out at night, and then to be able to work all the time, I'd have to sauna every day, and I never have to do that anymore.
Right.
And the interesting thing NAD itself drives all this, but we really want our sirtuins activated too. And NAD activates them, but even stronger when it's got sirtuin activating compounds. And so then you get into the next level of what you need with it. Like, all right, we already said we need methylation groups and we need the NAD. The next things that you want in with it are things like resveratrol and quercetin. And these have other benefits, such as the mast cell stabilization, but they're helping to really supercharge the sirtuin activation, and the sirtuin activation is opening up a lot of the gene paths for really efficient metabolism.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've noticed with the resveratrol, I get a bit of an instant focus boost from it, as well as any long-term benefits which I can't feel straight away.
Right.
And then just on the sauna, it's very interesting actually, because as I said, with the testing that I did with your company, I had high mercury levels, and I've got really into the infrared sauna, the sunlight and sauna. It's fantastic.
Oh,
And
I love that.
yeah, it's really good. And I've noticed that I do. I mean, I go quite gently in the sauna, and I'm very lucky to have it because I do need to detox. But is this something that you found in an infrared sauna or sauna in general, that people who say have heavy metal toxins and toxicity, they have to take it quite gently because they can really start to detox quite heavily?
Well, no, I think that's well, yes and no. No, if you're taking the right stuff.
Yeah.
If you have things to mobilize. So detoxification needs to be coupled to bile flow. So if you have things to, like we use our liver sauce and our binder, things that are moving the bile, activating all the different enzymes of detoxification, and then coupling that to a binder, then you don't have to go in these little baby steps. You can go a lot faster. And there's other things that happen for your adrenals. And there's a couple things. There's tetrahydrobiopterin regeneration. There is heat shock protein activation. These are other things that happen during a sauna, which make you feel better after the sauna. You say, oh, I offloaded those toxins. I feel so much better. But that's not always what it is. Getting your adrenals to put out all their anti-inflammatory compounds and get things back under control, including stabilizing your mast cells, is a lot of what's making you feel better. Now, in terms of getting all the toxins out, then you just have to couple it to a good detoxification protocol. Our push-catch liver detox is freaking great for that. You take the liver sauce, get in your sauna, 30 minutes later, you take your binder, it's just ties everything up, and you don't have any of these side effects when things go out of control.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've tried the old charcoal tablets after the sauna, but to be honest, it's dehydrated enough when you get out of the sauna. So that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have enough magnesium and enough water with the charcoal tabs. But you can, I mean, I love charcoal. It's just with some people it binds them up a little bit, and so magnesium and enough water is what you need there. Yeah. But that also is going to come back to bile flow. Taking things that are cholagogues, meaning that they make bile move, these also work against constipation. A lot of people are made much more regular by use of bitter compounds, bitters.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's really great because I'm a huge convert to the sauna and I want to optimize it in the best way that I can. So I've made a note of the push catch liver detox. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's got this stuff. It's a combined liposome called liver sauce. Simple enough, and it includes our bitters. It includes the histoaid, which you love so much.
Oh yeah.
And milk thistle and lipoic acid. And so it's hitting all these. It's got NRF2 activation, AMPK activation, which are essential parts of getting the chemistry of detox going. And then the bitters is rolling the bile flow, and the histoaid is stabilizing mast cells and getting everything to roll out in a stable way. And then you come in with the binder set, and the binder, there's charcoal in there, but there's charcoal, zeolite, chitosan, acacia gum, which is more lubricating on the GI, and IMD, our proprietary metal binder. And all that together gets a smooth as silk detox. And in that 30 minutes in between, you can put a sauna, you can put an iron foot bath, you can put massage, whatever you want to do to help move these toxins.
Oh, lovely. Okay, well, look, I, as you know, Chris, am a huge convert to you and everything that you do, and I obviously that is a product of your company. If I was to ask you, what is one product that you take that isn't from your company that you like? What would you say?
Oh, you're stretching me now. Everything I like, I end up making myself.
Really?
I'm looking around here to see what there is. I use a lot of Chinese herbs because I do have a sort of, an original obsession with Chinese herbology. And so I have a couple of the Chinese patent herb groups. I also have a lot of R&D stuff too that's never been released that I have my guys make for me. And so that ends up being other things that I don't make. Well, there's the original Quinton minerals. We don't make those.
Oh yes,
but we
yeah,
do
the Quinton. Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
I use a ton of that. We private label the hydrogen. I use some of that, but the Quinton's probably the thing I don't make that I use the most of.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And a multi-mineral. I never made a multi-mineral. And sometimes I use pure encapsulations. Mineral 650, Designs for Health has a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I've got a big shopping list here, so it's great to talk to you. One question that I asked you before, I'm going to ask you again. What is one book that you would recommend, Chris, and one recommendation for more energy, vitality, and motivation?
Joe Mercola flipped me over into keto stuff, metabolic adaptation, fat burning. And his Fat for Fuel book, which also includes a lot of mTOR blocking, even though he went a little too far, he would go too long into it, but it really lays out how your body's supposed to use fat and how to use it. I mean, one of the most fundamental things in there is that fat doesn't break your fast.
Right.
Only carbs and protein do.
Yeah.
And so you can, you want to do intermittent fasting, you can still, put butter and MCT in your coffee and you're still fasting.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And then what about one tip for living with more energy and vitality? Or what do you do every day that makes a difference?
Well, so I said what I really want to have is high NAD levels and a lot of activation of AMPK, which happens during the fasting and fat eating. So I intermittent fast every day unless I'm like making a big breakfast with my kids on the weekend. So I intermittent fast. I don't eat till lunch. I have coffee and my supplements in the morning. I've got my NAD and my AMPK activators, and just that having a nice long period of fasting and having these things that activate the metabolism, that has really been the game changer that brought my vitality up to where I really can just crank out work all day long now and still travel and party on the weekends and nothing stops.
Yeah, and this podcast is all about energy, and one of the things I was looking forward to talking to you about is that, I know from having met you that you definitely raise my energy levels. I feel all inspired and energized, and it's the end of quite a long day of podcasting as well. So thank you for that, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic.
And you've got it. You've definitely got energy in spades. So right now, where can people find out more about you and everything that we've talked about?
Yeah, quicksilverscientific.com is where to go. And you will find some education on there. But we also have a YouTube page. So look for the Quicksilver Scientific YouTube page. And you will find tons of lectures in there, and you'll find my NAD lectures. My NAD lecture at A4M is somewhere on the web. It's probably on our site too. There'll be lectures on this liver detox, the push catch liver detox. Really crucial to understand that coupling of bile flow and binders to detoxification. It'll take all the symptoms of detox away. The Keto Before 6 lectures on AMPK activation, all that you need to know about that. So there's just tons of education there, and it takes a while to unpack. So don't be afraid to watch them, a couple times, and then you'll get to know a lot about me.
Good stuff.
And
yeah.
go buy the product too.
Yeah. I mean, I know that a lot of people listen to this and probably think, it'd be great to have a functional medicine practice. I wish Dr. Chris would be my practitioner, but but I don't suppose that's possible, is it?
You do some consulting, and I have some people that look to me for guidance, but it's not the mainstay of what I do.
No, I shouldn't have thought so. But listen, it's great to talk. I'll see you when you come over in London, and we'll find out how good you are at partying as well as everything else.
All right. Well, you've just laid down the gauntlet. We can. I will show you.
Good. Excellent. All right. See you then. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Take care.
Thank you to Chris, and thank you for listening to Zestology. Quick reminder, it is brought to you by my podcast partners, Magnesium Breakthrough. And the Zestology team has been able to arrange for some stock to be set aside just for Zestology listeners. I guarantee it's the best deal available on Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the ultimate magnesium supplement. It's probably the best that I've experienced in terms of magnesium, because there's not one or two forms of this mineral, but there's 7 forms. Most supplements only contain 1 or 2 forms of magnesium. In reality, there's probably 7 that your body needs and benefits from. And a lot of us are deficient in magnesium. It's been largely missing from soil since the 1950s, which explains why up to 80% of the population may be deficient in magnesium. But not you anymore when you try out magnesium. magbreakthrough.com/zestology. This is my offer for June, so it's not going to be there that much longer. You'll be able to save up to 40% on selected deals with the code Zestology10. And it's a kind of Magnesium June thing. I'm taking Magnesium Breakthrough in June as well. I've got a pot downstairs. I've been taking it every day, feeling good on it, feeling excellent. And this podcast is all about energy, and it is very energizing. So magbreakthrough.com/zestology. If you're in the UK, it's a slightly different one. Go to bioptimizers.co.uk and same discount code Zestology10 for 10% off. But everyone else, magbreakthrough.com/zestology, and enjoy your Magnesium June. Thanks for listening. It's great to have Chris Shade on finally. I can't believe we recorded this so long ago. Plans for the summer get rewritten almost daily at the moment, don't they? And I know we're looking very seriously into camping at the moment, which could be interesting with a 1-year-old, but I'm excited about that. And, where you might not be taking a foreign holiday or an exotic UK holiday. We did have a nice hotel holiday planned in the UK, but I'm not sure that's going to happen now. But camping could be just as fun, maybe even more fun. And it's getting at one with nature as well, which is definitely a Zestology theme. Thanks for listening. There will be another podcast all about energy, vitality and motivation next week. Until then, have a good one.